coming at you live from America's podcast studio. Eric the Turf Teacher Jones, the landscape contractor and green industry platform for success. This is the Podscape, brought to you by LMN Software.
And welcome everyone to the Podscape. You got the old turf teacher here, and I apologize. I have been gone for a few days. I've been a little bit under the weather, and you know that this past weekend was Valentine's Day. So me and the wife, we headed up to Blowing Rock, our little favorite spot, kind of tucked away in the North Carolina mountains. Not too many people know about it across the country. Not too many people know about it much here in North Carolina, but it is a beautiful, beautiful spot, and it was cold and rainy and nasty the entire time. And let me tell you something. She walked my legs off because I think we got the very last room in Blowing Rock because she tried all week trying to get us a place. And finally we found a spot, and we had to walk up to Main Street. We were right there on Sunset. You know, Sunset Beach, North Carolina is our favorite beach, and Sunset Drive there in Blowing Rock is our favorite street. So we were not at our favorite beach, we were at our favorite street, and so we had to walk it up, and that was a good little hike, but it was well worth it. And tonight, guys, we're going to jump back into Landscape Contracts Part 2. Before we get started today, I want to give a big shout out to LMN Software because none of this would be possible without them. I've personally been using their software in my own company, and so far it's been a complete game changer for my business. LMN is the most comprehensive landscape business management software in the industry. From budgeting, estimating, CRM, time tracking, and so much more, it's a simple do-it tool for your landscape business and provides a platform to scale your company to the next level. And the best part about LMN is they have a free version, which you can begin using today if you choose to. Just visit golmn.com/free to learn more and start taking advantage of the software that's helped me grow my business into a successful, sustainable, and profitable company. That's golmn.com/free. golmn.com/free.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
Okay, guys, so I want to start off with recitals. Last episode, we got into part 1 of landscape contracts. We're now in part 2. So what is a recital? These are usually statements that are at the beginning of a contract that are going to provide you some background to the contract, to what's going on. It's going to talk about the parties, you know, the homeowner or the commercial builder that you're going to work for. They're going to talk about you. They're going to talk about the contract contents, what is involved or what is inside of this contract. And the last thing that it's going to talk about is the reasons that the parties want to enter into the contract. I mean, basically, they are going to discuss what it is that the owner wants, whether they are a commercial builder or a home owner. These are your recitals. So what types of contracts may you enter? What kind of contracts are you going to write up for your residential homeowner? Or what kinds of contracts may you be receiving from the commercial GC? Well, there's 3 types. There's lump sum, there's unit price, and then there's cost plus. Now, lump sum is basically you're agreeing to complete the project for a predetermined price. Let's say Mr. and Miss Smith, again, has selected 3 landscape contractors in your area to bid on the pool project that we've talked about in many episodes. They've called you, and they want a lump sum for the complete project. So you're going to have a set of plans. They have already hired a landscape architect or a building architect to design this pool that's in their backyard. And so they're wanting the pool built. They're wanting hardscapes. They're wanting the outdoor kitchen. They're wanting an outdoor entertainment area. the whole softscape. I mean, this is a big, big project. I mean, this could be, $200,000 plus. The $100,000 pool, $100,000 hardscapes, landscape all around it. This could really be a nice project, but they're wanting lump sum. That means that you're going to have to bid against the other two, apples for apples. Like there shouldn't be any discrepancies in the contract or the contract documents. This means that you are bidding exactly what the other two landscape contractors are bidding. Apples for apples. There may be unit price, but these are typically used for jobs where the extent of the work cannot be fully determined. That big paving project, I mean, it's some square footage in there. And, basically we do have a square footage price for hardscapes. But if you can't really determine how many square feet or whatever it is going to be, because there's probably not a set of plans, you would want to do a unit price. You're going to tell them your square footage. There's home builders that come up with a unit price contract for remodeling, and it's usually like $250 a square foot. And that is a little extravagant, but they don't know what they're getting into. When they start pulling sheetrock off a wall, they don't know what's behind it. They don't know any of that type of stuff. And the last but not least, which I think is probably one of the better ones to bid on, is cost plus. This is when you are reimbursed for the actual cost of the labor and materials, and you are paid a markup fee for overhead and profit. Cost plus can be a big, big lifesaver on some of these big projects, and it can also save the homeowner money as well. We are pricing a home for a doctor here in the local Triad area. Not going to discuss clients. They're very private people. But we are doing a home bid, which, we've pretty much got the job, but we are still finalizing the prices on some of the things they want, but they've agreed to do the contract at cost plus, which saves me a lot of time and it saves them money, because I would probably be a lot higher, probably double my percentage if I was giving them a lump sum contract to make sure that I covered everything. But since they're doing cost plus, it's here, open invoices, open checkbook. They see every document, every invoice, every estimate that comes in for their house, and they're paying me my markup for it. It's what I love doing. That pool job, the pool job for the Mr. and Miss Smith, hardscape, poolscape, softscape job, I would want to do that cost plus. But if there were contract documents, meaning plans and specifications from the landscape architect, we could do lump sum for that. We could calculate exactly what it's going to cost. Lump sum, you're going to make a little bit more. Cost plus, you're guaranteed your money, and you're guaranteed that you're not going to lose money. And that's why I love cost plus contracts. So, contracting methods. There are different ways that you can act, or let's say there's different contractors for a project. Again, let's talk about the Smith job, the pool job. You could be the single prime, which is basically you are the head honcho. You're going to be the one hiring all of the subcontractors. Probably the best way to do it. Easiest way for me to describe this on a commercial landscape installation, we worked for multiple prime, which is at the very bottom of this list that we're going to talk about. So you got single prime and multiple prime. When we did the huge landscape job for University of North Carolina at Greensboro, their student union center, it was a multiple prime contract. We worked for the building contractor who was acting as a GC. And then there were two other prime contracts. One was for electrical, and the other one was for HVAC. Notice plumbing didn't have its own separate contract. The plumber actually worked for the building contractor, the same GC that we worked for. But the reason that UNCG split it up into multiple primes was because they knew they didn't want to pay that markup on such a large investment anyway. They were going to have to pay big time for the HVAC and big time for the electrical, so they wanted it a separate prime contract, meaning that those two contractors had their GC license as well, but they were acting as their own prime contract. So there was 3 there. We worked for the building contractor. Long story short, the electrical contractor that was doing that job went belly up, and so their performance bond got called, and the bond company had to pay another electrical contracting company time and materials to come in and complete the job. It was more than the original electrical contractor could bite off and chew. So he got in a little bit of trouble. You know, that bond company was knocking on the door and wanting mama's fur coat and all that stuff to pay this stuff back. Then there's design build. Great opportunity when you're doing this pool. If you had a landscape architect on staff, all the design is in-house, all the changes could be made very, very quickly, and it could be, completed a lot faster. There's no lag time in between design changes and actually building the project. Construction management, which a lot of GCs are going to, and I think the world of general contracting will actually go that entire route in the near future. That just basically is almost like cost plus. You're paid a fee to manage the construction cost, or the actual owner might be paying all the bills or whatever. You may just be paid a flat fee to line up the contractors for them and to actually help them get bids on it. But you kind of stay out of the whole thing when it comes to writing checks to subcontractors and everything. Turnkey is similar to design build. The design build model, which in addition is managing the construction and design team. And then under this turnkey model, the construction firm is obligated to complete a project according to pre-specified criteria, but with expanded responsibilities and liability. A price is usually fixed at the time the contract is signed. Fast track construction. This is when you actually start the construction project before the contract documents are complete. And usually the jobs are going to be broken down into phases. So if we're doing the Smith's pool, it may be going ahead and digging out and grading and getting the concrete pool in. That's phase 1. You're writing the check because you're getting your check for that because the landscape architect hasn't finished designing the hardscape and the kitchens. But Mr. and Ms. Smith want to get this in for some big party they're having in the summer. You can fast track it. We just talked about the multiple prime contracts, whereas a government entity or a homeowner could even subcontract out the pool construction to a pool company and then have the landscape contractor come in and do the outdoor kitchen. There's multiple primes on a project. And then partnering. You can actually partner with another landscape contractor to tackle some of these bigger jobs where you may have some resources that your partner doesn't, and they may have resources that you don't, and you can actually team up and knock out these jobs really, really fast. Sources of contracts. There are numerous books available that provide sample contracts and forms, but I can't stress highly enough to you that you need to speak to a lawyer. If you find one of these contracts, download it, read it, red pen it, mark it up, and then take it to your attorney and get them to write something that's going to be, sticking for you. And when it comes to this, like the poolscape job, I would have my attorney write that job, especially if it was a $200,000 poolscape and landscape. My attorney's writing that contract, not myself. In situations where the form of the contract is not written by you, it is important that you read it very, very carefully. Have your attorney read it. Highlight anything that you need clarification on. If you want to make some additions to it, you can do that. Review the changes with the other party that's involved with the contract, and then make sure any requested changes have been added prior to signing it. And then review the contract again and again prior to putting your John Henry on it. Now, always keep a pen in your pocket. Always keep a pen in your pocket. One of my best friends told me that. They're like, when you have these contracts ready, you better have that pen. You don't want to have to walk back to the truck. You don't want to have to try to find one. When you're laying that contract down with your customer, have that pen ready for them to sign. because once they sign on the line, the job is yours. So what happens if there's going to be changes made to this contract? Well, they're going to have to initiate a change order. This is a written agreement between the owner and the contractor to make the necessary changes. And usually that involves you getting a premium price to make these changes. And a lot of times, which I don't know if this is ethical or not, a lot of GCs and landscape contractors can make up some of the money that they've missed on previous parts of the job. They can add it to this change order. I've seen some switch out of trees cost a lot of money because they messed up on something else. But usually there are reasons for these change orders. And it may be that there is a change in the scope of practice or whatever when it comes to the job. There are unforeseen conditions when the site conditions differ from what's expected. I mean, look at all the rain that we're having here across the country. Look at all the snow that's happening in Texas. My wife's grandfather, who's like 98 years old, World War II POW veteran in the Army Air Corps, they've been without power for 30 hours. They got 6 inches of ground in Fort Worth, Texas, and they got 3 more inches expected tonight. It's never snowed there before. There's errors or omissions in construction plans or specifications. That doesn't mean that you quit the project or that you stop construction just because you find an error. You go to the landscape contractor or the landscape architect and you get this fixed. It doesn't give you an excuse to slow down and stop the actual project. When there are issues that do come up and there needs to be some resolving of claims, there is a process that you can go through. Usually the homeowner and the contractor will go to the architect and they will actually work it out very, very reasonably right there. That's the easiest way to do it. The claims procedure, the contract may stipulate what the specific procedures are, but remember, the project cannot be delayed during this claims resolution process. You're going to continue working. And it may be something very, very small. But that's why it's good to have that landscape architect in there, because they're working for the client, but they understand what we're going through as well. But that's usually who they turn to. If it can't get resolved for that, there might be some negotiation. They might bring somebody in that's trained in negotiation. They're not an attorney. They're not a lawyer. They're just somebody that's trained in negotiation. It may then step up to mediation to get things settled. It can even go into collaborative law. And last but not least, arbitration. And this is when lawyers and stuff are brought in. Negotiation and mediation, typically not going to involve lawyers. When you have collaborative law or arbitration, that's when both parties' representatives, meaning the attorneys, are actually going to sit down and figure out what's causing the trouble on the project. Guys, we're going to take a short break, and if you are interested in getting some pesticide credits, you need to check this out right now.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones.
Oh, yeah!
Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
If you're needing irrigation, landscape, or pesticide credits, check out my website at turfteacher.com. Every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., we host Turf Talk Tuesday for pesticide credits and have online courses for both irrigation and landscape contractors. There are also several opportunities to get your credits at one of our seminars that we do throughout the southeastern United States and information on our Christmas lighting course. Check it out again at turfteacher.com. Okay, so let's say that there are some substitutions that need to be made on the contract. There is an approval process that needs to take place. This usually occurs only during the bid stage. So let's say you and the 2 other contractors are bidding on the project for the Smiths, and they actually want to substitute something. They don't like crepe myrtles around their pool. They want to use something else. So this substitution process, it's going to happen during the bid stage, where they've given you the drawings, and then they're like, no, we don't like crepe myrtles. Let's switch them out. That can happen. Those are going to be addendums. What about substitution after the bid process? This must meet certain criteria to even be considered. But it can still be done. You've been awarded the job, and then they want to switch out those crepe myrtles. You can get a change order and do that. What about discontinued products? Let's say the landscape architect specified a plumbing fixture for the outdoor kitchen because they thought it was pretty, but they didn't realize that it was 2 years old and that it is no longer available to get, that there is a new product out to replace it. You can do that. You can switch it out. This is the only event that will not require the change order. You're going to have to do it and then just charge them the extra price. It didn't exist. You can't buy something that doesn't exist. But when you are substituting items because they can't be found, it must be equal to which was specified. More than likely, it's going to be a lot higher. It's going to be a lot better because it is outdated. And that's the reason companies come out with newer products, is because they have the chance to actually make something newer and better. Everybody comes out with newer products each year. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And that's the good thing about being in construction and being in landscaping, because there's something new all the time to do it. Now, you've got this job. You're working on it. You must keep a project manual. This project manual needs to be located where you, the builder, the landscape builder, can always get it, always have it on site. It can be an electronic. It can be a 3-ring binder, however you want to do it. I like keeping both. I like having electronic files and also like keeping that notebook, that 3-ring binder out there. I'm going to keep my bid documents. I'm going to keep my contract provisions, the technical specs for the job, and the addendums and change orders that's already been made. It is a useful tool that I can easily pull out of the truck and reference it on the job site. Plus, it can be reproduced and distributed to my subcontractors when they need it. And then I like keeping it on my iPad that I can just, drag and drop to email and send it to them right there as well. But you got to keep a project manual with all these contract documents in it and a set of plans. And I like having those set of plans electronically as well, so I can zoom in on it and look at my specs on it or my construction details right on there. Perfect way to keep it. Also, in it, we're going to kind of break this down, this little project manual. The bid documents. You need to keep that invitation to bid, the bid instructions, your bid forms, your supplements, and your addendum or addenda. I always add that to it. I don't know why, but I do. But you're going to keep all of these. Those are considered bid documents. And then you're going to keep your contract provisions, your form of agreement, your general conditions or obligation of the party, your supplemental conditions, change orders, and index of drawings. Then you're going to keep your supplemental forms, which is your required bonds, your certificates of insurance, and then your tech specs, which is organized by a classification system. Usually American Institute of Architects does it, and I think maybe ASLA has one. I'd have to double check. But a lot of people just use the American Institute of Architects for their tech specs. So you can see this might be a very thick project manual, which is okay. And some of the things you may want to just keep electronically. 9 times out of 10, like small landscape jobs, you're not going to have to worry about that. The landscape architect's going to do these specifications, and all the written documents that need to be there is going to be on the plan itself. Where you're going to run into this situation is working for the larger builders on big construction sites where you're doing the landscaping. You're going to have the specifications for the pool and stuff easily available from the landscape architect. Or the pool company. If you're putting in a liner pool, they're going to give you tech specs on building that pool. But if you're doing one of the concrete pulls, it's going to come from the LA. And they're going to email it to you. And if you want to print it out, put it in that binder or keep it electronically, it's totally up to you. Like I said, I like keeping both because I don't like subs touching my computer or my iPad in the field. Now, yeah, if I want to pull it out and show them some stuff on it, that's perfectly okay. But I don't want their little nasty, dirty hands on my screen, touch screen and all that. So that's why I keep the project manual, a bound copy. These project manuals contain these construction drawings. Remember, they're talking about being organized in a classification system. They're going to be the architectural drawings, the structural, the plumbing, the electrical, the mechanical, the landscape, and the civil. Now, guaranteed, you probably see a lot of this in a big pool project like that, big hardscape project, outdoor kitchen. You're going to need to see all that. That's a big project for the Smiths, right? If you're having to hire a plumber, electrical, and a mechanical contractor, mechanical meaning like HVAC, gas, because they're going to run the gas over to the stove, they're going to run the gas over to the fire pit, electrical is going to do the outdoor kitchen, the lighting around the project, and then the plumber is definitely going to be there, right? Running the lines over to the outdoor kitchen, to the wet bar. Nice little spot, right? So you want to keep that information on your job site. Usually your site superintendent. If it's not you, you're going to have your site super keep this. You, being the owner, are probably going to keep these bid documents in an electronic file. You site super, he's probably going to have it printed out. He or she will have it in this 3-ring binder. So that kind of wraps up this whole thing when it comes to your project manual. And so the last thing I want to talk a little bit about is oral agreements. Are they legally binding? Under most circumstances, they are just as binding as written contracts, written contracts or written agreements. There's no on earth way, or however you want to say it, that I would ever do business with someone with an oral agreement unless I have worked for them for 30 years. But guys, even then, you're pushing the envelope. You want to get things in writing. We did a small sheetrock job for a shopping center that we do the grounds maintenance on. And they noticed that we have our general contractor's license. So they're like, you can pour concrete, build walls and stuff like that. Yes, we have the subcontractors lined up for that. And since we actually have, a GC license in our landscape company as well, we're licensed landscape contractor and a licensed general contractor in our landscape business. Plus, we hold another general contracting license in a home building business. So it's just a matter of what type of work. And we got our GC license in the landscape business for jobs like this. One, municipalities required, if we're going to be building retaining walls or anything that requires a permit, they want us to have the GC license well. But working for these property managers like that, they love picking up the phone and calling one person. And what I'm getting at is we already have a contract with them doing the grounds maintenance. We had to write a contract to do a $3,500 sheetrock job in one of the units that they were getting ready to rent out. To go in and put a firewall of sheetrock up, they wanted a contract stating that. I have a pre-written contract form that I use, and it was typing up the specifications that we are going to do in one section of it, and then it laid out the payment terms and everything else. Very simple. It took me 10 minutes after having this template before me. But the thing is, they wanted the contract. They couldn't just say, go ahead and do it, because, again, it's just good business to have it in writing, because you never know when something bad is going to happen. And when you do your written agreements or your written contracts, make sure that the clarity of language and meaning is one of the most important things you think about. Use an attorney. Have he or she help you draft these contracts to ensure that the contract will stand up in a dispute. I can't state that enough, guys. Your accountant and your attorney needs to be on your board of directors. You need to keep them on a retainer. And when something like this comes up, you can call them and say, hey, I need a simple, sweet contract to do this job. And the same thing goes when you're hiring subcontractors. We've got the Smith's job, right? We need to have the same information on our contracts with our subcontractors, just like we do with Mr. and Miss Smith or the commercial GC. You got to have the date, the names, and contract information of the parties, both parties involved, the project, the description of the work to be performed, and you need to write these contracts. Seriously, if they're working for you, you want them to write it. And I hear so many people out there saying, Eric, I ain't signing nobody's contract. They signed mine. Well, you're never going to get out of your little bubble that you've created for yourself by not signing somebody else's contract. Hell, I love it when they write the contract. All I got to do is read it and interpret it and have my attorney look at it. I'm good to go. Especially some of these lengthy ones working for the huge builders when you're doing a 100,000-plus landscape job. But you got to have the subcontractor start and completion date because they'll drag on forever. Trust me. The payment terms, if they're going to get a progress payment, and I like stating in there, we do not pay on Fridays. So don't come knocking on my personal house front door at 5 o'clock on Friday. Hey, Eric, I need a check. We showed up this morning and dropped some stuff off. I'd like to go ahead and get half down. No, read your contract, my friend. Read your contract. You don't get half down or whatever. You need 50% up front on a job that's going to take you 2 days to do. You got bigger problems than getting this check, my friend. So lay out those payment terms and any progress payment that they're going to get. Conditions for schedule delays based on weather, snow, everything that's going on right now. Drawings and specs, they need a copy of that as well. The contract sum, they need to give you a price, and then you write the price in the contract because you don't want them coming up to you at the very end and saying, well, Eric, I know I quoted $5,000 on this job, but I got involved in it, and I think it's going to cost me about $7,000 to do it. I don't care. I was getting ready to say a bad word. Let's see. Just too bad for you. You're going to get the $5,000. You estimated wrong, you eat the cost. And then any general supplemental conditions that may apply to that project, and then have them sign it. I like having that blue ink, having 2 copies. You sign this one's yours. Sign this one's mine. Because I don't want them coming back. I never got a copy. Well, I didn't sign that. No, this is your John Henry in blue ink on a nice printed out typed contract. And that's how you deal with contracts on subcontractors. Guys, thank you so much. And you know what? I'll see you in the next lecture. For more landscape business expert advice, check out golmn.com/blog. And once again, a massive shout out to LMN Software for sponsoring this podcast and making it all happen. LMN is the most comprehensive landscape business management software in the industry. From budgeting, estimating, customer relationship management, time tracking, and so much more, it's the true do-it-all tool for your landscape business and provides a platform to scale your company to the next level. And the best part about LMN is that they have a free version which you can use today if you choose to. Just visit golmn.com/free to learn more and start taking advantage of the software that's helped me grow my business into a successful, sustainable, and profitable company. That's golmn.com/free. And thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you in the next lecture. And that wraps up this episode of the Podscape. Thank you so much for joining us here, guys. I love each and every one of you. Life lessons and landscape lectures brought to you by the Turf Teacher and LMN Software. We'll see you in the next episode. Turf Teacher out.